Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Sex Doctors podcast. Delighted to be here with my co-host, partner in life and in crime, Dr. Marianne Brandon.
It's so much fun to sit right next to you. Normally we're in different chairs. Now we're like huddled
And today is an amazing day.
because we have our first guest.
Our first guest ever. Marianne and I are used to talking to each other, but right now
We have someone to talk to.
we have somebody to talk to. So, Patience, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Before we start, a small disclaimer. The Sex Doctors podcast is not a substitute for medical or psychological advice.
So Patience works in an industry of the gentlemen's club, sometimes called strip clubs, but we're not going to use that word because we're totally classy here on the Sex Doctors podcast. And Patience, why don't you just tell us, we have so much we want to ask you and learn from you, but why don't you tell us how you got started with all this?
Hi, I was in university in London. I went to art school, and as you know, art schools never really give you a degree, do they? But so I started out, I was 19, and I've always been fascinated by this industry, by, wearing lingerie, kind of like the little behind the scenes type of stuff. And so I ended up one night getting drunk and decided to audition at a strip club. And they were like, "Can you work here forever?" And I go, "Love it." And then next thing you knew, it became a 10-year career.
So you've been doing this for 10 years.
Yeah, 10 years.
Yeah. And do you live in London?
I do not. I live in America now. So I live in Las Vegas, New York. I'm actually relocating to a new place. But yeah, so I live in America now.
Yeah. And and have you been a what do we say? Dancer? Wherever you go?
There's many stories about this, but I have danced around America, but I've also done bartending, bottle service, sales, it's not always just about, working in the industry, but you take those skills and you apply them everywhere.
Yeah.
I'm curious, we're aware of how technology has interfaced with all aspects of our lives and changed the way we live so much. And I'm curious if you've noticed an impact from technology, do you think, in your experience in a gentleman's club?
Oh, 1,000%, 1,000%. So I do think, when I started out, people liked interpersonal connections. So people liked being with humans, around human nature. You felt the energy back and forth. And I do think with technology, everyone's become so surfaced a bit. Whereas you meet people, you have a conversation and the sexual aspect is always there, but that's what's fun. I mean, even with dating apps, you used to meet people in bars and take them home. And now, even in strip clubs and gentlemen's clubs and bars, in even bottle service, people are very quick. There's no, you have a conversation for 10 minutes to get to know someone, no matter where you are. And I don't think that's happening as much anymore.
Wow. So that really does, I would imagine, change your experience at work.
Oh, yes. So, you back in the day, not that old, but back in the day, you would have a lovely conversation and you could you put a little self into your work with anything you do, I think. And just being natural came, it was lovely. Now it's very oh, gotta stand back, don't want to offend someone, don't want to say the wrong thing, don't want someone snapping at me, kind of certain aspects where people are because everyone's been online, you can say rude things online and you don't have to say it to someone's face. And I think people are starting to say rude things to people's faces now, if that makes sense.
It totally makes sense. And that's so unfortunate.
Yeah. Technology. We love technology, but we also, where is it going?
Right.
type stuff.
Do you feel like it changes the kind of requests you get from guys in terms of like how you would dance or interact, or like does it change?
You know, that's such a good question. Thank you for asking. I do think any sort of connection you have with someone, you can kind of gauge their sensuality.
Mm.
You can gauge, you know, it's having a conversation before you can gauge their energy. You can gauge any sort of thing. So I think if people are like, oh, let me see your titties, it changes from, you know, you going into a private room and, you know, you being sensual about it. And I do think if that makes sense. So I do think it's changed the way men interact with women in a certain profession or how people interact altogether.
Yeah. That sounds so right. So we're losing this sense of our connection to our bodies in general as
Yeah.
we're on tech all the time. And so that takes away from our connection to our sensuality.
Right.
Do you notice the women also losing contact in that way with their sensuality?
Yes. So when I danced in London and the group of girls and you know, the women I've met, we all were very sensual. We were very intact with our body. We were very in tuned. We were very, you know, it was fun. It was a movement. It was dance. You know, it was art. Um, and I think the women I meet now in this industry, they're very like, you know, uh, rigid, but do you want to see? Do you want to see this? It's very like, you know, very blunt. And English people are very blunt, but saying, oh, do you want to lick my nipple? You know, that's very blunt versus, hi, darling, how are you? But the same kind of, you know, the same kind of result, but, you know, it's just, yeah, so definitely.
Wow. That's so interesting. I have to believe this impacts everyone's sex life too. You know, if they're anyone less connected to their body is going to find actual sex less
Right.
well, I have to believe. So this has to be indicative of people's.
Well, so it's not just about the industry. I think it's about dating. I think it's about, you know, everyone has partners. You know how, you know, it takes a few times for the sex to be good.
Mhm,
Like
mhm.
it takes a few times for someone to learn your body. It takes a few times for, you know, you can't just say, hey, do this, you know, it's an energy flow of sexual energy. And I think that's what's lacking nowadays is the sexual component of it's not just sex, it's an energy flow of like, I like getting you off, or you like getting me off. How can we do this together type of flow?
That's so sad. Does it strike you? Does it strike you as
You
sad?
mean the change
Yeah.
in how it's going? Yeah, and you know, I wonder whether some of that is regional. Like,
Mm,
maybe does it matter? I mean, you've danced in a variety of different places. Like, so, and I was struck by your comment that in London or in England they're rather crude and straightforward.
Hmm.
Usually that comment is reserved for Americans around the world.
Well, so it was just very blunt. So I think like, you know, being blunt and having is an American, like I think Americans find that saying like, oh, let me show you my pussy. But that's not being blunt. Being blunt is like, hi, I would like attention and this is what I like. And I think being straightforward would be the better. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do think regionally, I mean everyone regional in America has a sense of just how the demographic around them is, I would say. So, you know, I've worked in Las Vegas. It's very frat boy energy. But it's also very you know, golf trip energy, which is what I would say, like, you know, older men who like
Isn't that funny?
just beautiful women. So I think, you know, throughout the years, the energy of every region has changed.
Right.
mm.
So if you had to describe a club in Vegas compared to other clubs,
Hmm.
What would you say about the Vegas scene?
I would say it's entertaining. It is an entertainment scene where you go, girls are dancing. They have DJs now like actual like proper DJs that like perform in Ibiza DJs that now go to strip clubs and like do a DJ set. So it's acrobatic. I think I do think over the years it's become a little bit toxic. But I do think it's more entertainment style.
So before you finish, I know you're comparing this to other places, but what do you mean becoming more toxic? I have to ask.
So I think the energy in Vegas has shifted. Everyone has their opinion, and this is just mine. But Vegas is an entertainment world. There's Cirque du Soleil. You perform, it used to be showgirls. And then it was, entertainers. It used to be dancers. It went from showgirls to strip clubs to gentlemen's clubs to, now it's become, a little bit on the seedier side of there's not, the people going there for entertainment. Nobody's really wanting to see, women entertain in a sexual component. So, you see titties and you're on a pole spinning. That's entertainment. That's acrobatic. It's still, I've pulled a disc in my back from spinning on the pole.
Poor thing.
Yeah. So, but I do think it's just become a bit more like not fun, like toxic.
Wow.
Yeah. That's what I would say.
Okay. I got you off.
Tell us about New York.
Yeah.
Tell us about New York. I'm going to ask you about a few places.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
New York.
So New York was lovely. It's very businessmen who, come on there. Like lunch break. I worked there before the pandemic. I had a cheeky little story of a man coming in, losing, a $50 million deal and then buying me a drink, handing me some money and said, honey, thank you, and then leaving.
Oh my.
So yeah, I think, everybody's just, some people, being around a beautiful woman, having a drink makes them feel better. It's not always sexual.
Miami.
So New York is, Miami. Oh, Miami. Oh, Miami.
Oh, it sounds wistful.
Oh, Miami. That was way more acrobatic than Las Vegas. So I worked at a club. You have to be on 7 different stages. It was very fun. And you get such a variety of clientele. And I made some good money there. So it was lovely. London, it's the classic. It's where I started. It's sophisticated, it's classy, and it's interesting. People love to conversate there. And I think that's why I'm such a good conversationalist, because I started out in London, which you had to have a personality for people. Like, not a personality, but be able to like communicate, be able to say, hi, how are you? Hi, how are you doesn't mean, hi, how are you? It means, you're right. Like, how you doing? Just being nice. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Who tips better?
Pardon?
Who tips better? Like, do men in any city particularly well?
That is such a good question. Honestly, it's not a region. It's people who understand what the club is. People who come in understanding that this is how we make our wage. We don't get paid if we don't make money. I've been negative coming home sometimes. I've paid to work at the club. I've paid Ubers, I paid for makeup, hair, outfits, and I've gone home negative before. It's just part of it. So it's not regional. It's people who understand that they're going in there and we're going to, you wouldn't go to a Mexican place, just eat chips and salsa, drink water and leave, would you? No.
Right.
Just because you see it doesn't mean you don't have to pay. So,
and you have to tip a lot of people, right? You have to.
Oh, yes.
Like bartenders and the door guy. Like, who do you tip?
So we tip DJ, we tip doorman, we tip anyone who's ever given us like hey, we have a group coming in. You have to tip them out. So if anyone who has like insight on who's coming in, you also tip front door, back door, and then depending on sometimes you tip your bottle girls. If you've done a VIP, you always make sure they get tipped, and then you throw them a little bit of money. Yeah, it's everyone's money goes around. So
And so like at the end of every night, you have to like look at
yeah. And trust me, we drink. So I mean, imagine calculating that after, a bottle of champagne and 3 tequilas. Still can manage it.
Patience, Marianne and I talk a lot on this podcast about human sexuality and, and some of the different influences that are affecting things today.
Okay.
The strip club or the gentleman's club, as you describe it, kind of has I don't know, there's a little mystery to it. People have different ideas about what it means and what guys are doing there. And I'm just interested in your take on a couple of things. We won't throw out too much to you at once, but so for example, let's deal with issue number one. There's this idea that it is degrading for women to work in a club. Tell me your thoughts on that.
Absolutely not. I disagree with that thought process 1,000%. It is not degrading to women. I walk out in a bikini on a beach and I'm getting hit on. So if I'm in a dance club, I'm wearing high lingerie and a man wants to pay for my time or for a girl's time or who likes, it's not really any different than, oogling a girl on the street, I would say. I think women are empowered by it. I don't think it's degrading.
Some people would say that that if you work there, you're a victim. You're a victim of culture in society. What do you think of that?
I disagree completely. When I started at 19, it was fully my choice. I loved it. It was fun. You meet amazing women. Also, having a talent on how to communicate to people, it's customer service, it's sales, it's just doing it in lingerie. Like, it's just doing it half naked. I mean, trust me, honey. You're selling overpriced bottles. You're selling air. You're selling my time. And if you could do that, I think a woman is deeply, deeply impressive.
Do you think that your experience has helped you? You talk about sales, has helped you develop skills that you might not have developed otherwise?
Yes.
And we have to be careful about what skills we're talking about, right? Skills like for everyday life and success and social and business, because presumably you're not going to do this the rest of your life.
Oh no. Everything has a shelf life, I would say, shelf life. It's given me confidence, I would say. I mean, walking out on a stage, being half naked, performing, drinking isn't necessarily always about, like, I think people think, oh, you have to get drunk to do it. And it's like, no, it's empowering. Having a shot with a stranger at a bar, that seems like scary for women. You do it in a strip club, a gentleman's club, a bar. It's just so different. So I would say it's given me a lot of skills on how to speak to people, how to not be reactive to certain situations, to understand people are who they are, and being able to walk away. So I don't have to speak to anyone I don't want to. I could sit in the back in the dressing room if I wanted to. Like, yeah, so it's given me interpersonal like skills, I would say.
That's so interesting. What percentage of reactions in the gentleman's club do you find empowering versus negative? Like, what percentage of reactions would you say are uncomfortable for you?
Uncomfortable. I would say probably 10% is uncomfortable, and then 90% is interesting, or you get to choose. You don't have to be in that scenario. So I can walk away at any time. That's what's empowering. If I don't like what someone's saying, if I don't like how I'm feeling, if I don't like anything, I'm like, okay, goodbye, and I just walk away. And I think it teaches you self-control, which I think is a lesson I've very much needed. My name is Patience, but I have not had patience most of my life. So it's actually taught me that, to be patient with people, to not just go in for the kill, not to be, like, if I don't like something, that's not my business. And I just walk away. Yeah, it's taught me demure.
Wow.
Yeah.
Over the time that you've been doing this, have you noticed whether there are fewer or more women that come into the clubs?
Oh, women have come in more now.
And what do you make of that, and what's that like for you?
I love women in a club. I love a couple. I love, girls coming in. But I do think women tend to they either love it or they don't. And I think women either need to know that they don't like it, like have self-control. If they come in and it's not for them, then they need to leave, because being upset or annoyed doesn't bring positivity to dances, if that makes sense. So if a woman is loving it, I'm like, bring them all in, honey, bring them all bloody in. I would love that. But
so Marianne and I talk a lot about differences between men and women. Politically, there's kind of been this conceit that men and women are pretty much the same, and we don't believe that.
Oh,
do we?
No.
No. We think that there's important differences, equal but different, men and women. And one of the places where that we've talked about where it can play out is in how men and women are in a strip club and what they're looking for and how they behave. But we're not the experts. You are. What do you notice about men alone versus men with women, or even if women come in alone or with girlfriends?
I would say men alone. I mean, there's very different types. I would say, like, there's about 3 types. Men that come in, they're lonely, and they just want company, because for whatever reason in their life that women aren't attracted to them, or they don't get, they don't have the confidence or whatever it is. And they like companionship. And I do think there's, a certain type of bravado guy that comes in who, wants to be the big head, and, women come up to them. And I think there's also another type of guy, which I think is my favorite, which understands that it's a night out. That's how they want to spend their night out. It's not going to expensive restaurants. It's not going to, shows. They like going to a gentleman's club, hanging out with women. They'll buy stuff and they'll spend, and that's their night out. And that's how they want to relax. Women who come in with couples, I do find there's 2 types. Women who like gentlemen's clubs and women who are trying to please their gentlemen. And the women who like it, who like women's bodies, they don't have to be bisexual or be, they just appreciate. They are lovely. They are probably my favorite type. Because they're like, honey, there's a hot girl. Can I have some money? Let's give her some money. Get your wallet out, let's get her drunk, like, or, the woman who feels very uncomfortable. She's doing it to appease the male gaze. And I think I'm not here to judge women. And I think that's, it's hard for women. And then women who come in alone on a girls' trip are like exploring their sexuality. And they are lovely because, they get handsy. They get a little bit more handsy than the men. I'm like, girl, did we not go through our bisexual phase in college? Like, as we're doing it now. But it is very fascinating women coming in, and everyone has kind of what they're looking for, and I think it gives people an opportunity to explore it in a confined and safe space, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really interesting. Kind of similar to that, I'm very aware of the sort of ongoing and I think increasing tension between the sexes, between men and women.
Right.
Negativity. So, we hear there's no good men, there's no good women,
Right.
and all different versions of that. And I'm wondering where you see yourself in that. Do you have more compassion for one side or the other based on your experiences or not? Like,
Honestly, I do. I think this narrative of that men are evil isn't true. I do think I'm being I would say I'm a feminist, but I'm not the feminist that is portrayed today. I do feel like men should be able to explore what they want without being, crucified. Of men are biologically wired to love titties and ass. like, like that's okay. And women are strong and powerful. And I think if I think we're yin and yang. I think women and men are yin and yang. And I think if we just, I don't feel one way or the other. I think I'm super empowered by women. I think they're gorgeous. They're beautiful. They can accomplish a lot. Their brain is so amazing. But I do think men are necessary in life. I'm like, everyone wants a man. like and I do feel kind of bad for men in the public eye that get crucified for just doing everyday things. I mean, trust me, I turn my head when there's an ass too. Does that answer your question?
very well, yes.
Yeah. So what's your take on the idea that men who go to the clubs alone are cheating on their partner?
So I've been asked this a lot, actually, and I've changed my answer throughout the years, which I think is interesting. When I was younger, I definitely was like, oh, what's the big deal? Who cares? I don't think if you go alone, you're cheating. I wouldn't say that's cheating. I think it's an environment where instead of cheating, going to a bar and picking up and fucking a woman, that's cheating. Going to a bar and wanting to be there without your spouse or your significant other, I do think that's harmful in whatever sense of cheating is definitional. I do think that's harmful. I think being able to go to a safe space where you see titties and ass, you have a great conversation, you have a drink. Nobody is having you're not really having an emotional affair. You're not really doing anything. You're just allowing a primal need to express it. And I think that's lovely. I do think taking it too far, that's cheating. But I do think, having a safe space where you can, express your needs without making it harmful. I think that's how I feel about it now. I used to be very like, no, it's not. And I think it's how you choose to use your time. If that makes sense.
It does. And it's really interesting to talk about, like, if the alternative is actually, sort of meeting someone and having sex or channeling that energy elsewhere. I guess as a sex therapist, what we would hope is guys will, if they're going to a club, they would gather energy and bring it back to their relationship, as opposed to sending it out and then it's lost to the.
So funny that you bring up energy. So I do think sexual energy, communication energy, I think we're all built of energy. And I think how, everyday life it's not mundane, but arguing over fucking the groceries or whatever. And I have a therapist, you're a therapist, everyone, sometimes you need someone to talk to. Sometimes, you need an outlet. I mean, it's no different than going to, Pilates 3 times a day, or not 3 times a day, but 3 times a week, and, getting your your energy out of whatever you need. So I do think energy is so important of how you spend it and how you give back to other people. So if I can make someone happy, they can vent to me about, a silly little thing. They have a drink, they look at some, girls work very hard for those bodies. So they look at some really refined ass, go home, and then they go home to their wives and they could be a better partner. I think that's great. I mean, it's no different than going to the gym or doing anything. So that's how I view it.
What an interesting perspective. Yeah. How do you think doing this work and being in that environment has affected your own sexuality?
So I pretty much own my sexuality. I do think in relationships, I'm actually more on the submissive side. So in my sexuality, I'm very like, very sexual. And I think I'm secure with my body enough not to be jealous, not to be insecure. It's not made me I'm reserved or feel sexually taken advantage of. I think it's given me power, and I think it's also made me more aware of what I want when I'm with a partner. So I could tell them specifically, and I don't feel guilty, or I don't feel, as women, you feel like, you have to be on all the time. And I'm like, hi, honey, I just came home from work and I just danced. I'm tired. Or hi, honey, I'm horny. Let's fuck, So I think it's given me a direction.
Very interesting.
Yeah. What do you think people most misunderstand about your work or this work in general?
Oh, that we're not humans, that we don't have feelings, that we're, I don't wake up every day, with eyeliner and fake eyelashes and my hair done. I like to watch TV and binge eat and, relax. I think people don't understand, we're not always out for blood and your money. Sometimes you're having, sometimes I've gone home with no money, but I've had great interactions. And then I'm like, okay, you go home you go back to work the next day. So I think a lot of people would say, like we're money hungry or we're, insecure or, our dad didn't love us enough. And I'm like, no, that's not at all. We choose our sexuality and we're beautiful women and we can make money off of it. And we like to, go home, put our hair on top of our head, eat some food and watch binge TV like the rest of you.
Patience, is there anything we haven't asked you that you think people should know?
I think the industry, it's gone online and it's changing as it goes. And I think just be kind. I think don't have such a perception or judgmental or not think. I've known a lot of women who still believe in religion, who go to church, who have kids, who still want to be entrepreneurships, like who, they have real jobs. I would say using this platform makes people uncomfortable using your body for money, but it's not using your body for money. I would say, it's people. It's just being interesting, and I think that's what I would like to say to people. Yeah.
That's lovely.
We really appreciate your coming on.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, our first guest.
I'm so grateful. This is amazing.
Well, you've been fabulous. This is everything that we really had hoped for.
Oh, lovely. I'm glad it's not like it's my job or anything.
So we'll wrap up. And for those of you watching, you can find us on the sexdoctorspodcast.com. Give us a thumbs up, write a review, tell all your friends, and we hope to see you back again for another episode of the Sex Doctors. Patience, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure. Thank you guys so much.
All right. Bye-bye now, everybody.